Hello, hello. Welcome to this episode. Today we are talking about a topic that I think so many of you will relate to. So, what I am discussing is how to love your laid back partner when you're a go getter. It's really where the type A woman and the type B man meet. So, if this resonates for you, and you're a woman who identifies as type A, which I'm going to get into what that actually means, and you're married to a guy who is pretty laid back, pretty chill, it's not surprising that you got together with him, but you do have a lot of dynamics to navigate. And this is my personal experience as well. So I will weave in some examples from my client's experience and my experience as well to give you a sense of what this looks like and how to begin to deal with it. Because if you're a type A woman married to a man who's more laid back, it's going to be really hard to appreciate the things that they bring to the table that are different than yours, because there's going to be certain things that you value that they just don't care about. And they care about you. They love all aspects of you and your personality, but they don't care about the same things that you care about, which can be really eye opening and can feel very personal. So we do want to think about how we navigate that in our relationship. So, and then if you stay till the end, I've got a couple of invitations for you. So tune in. Okay. So let's dive in here. So starting off with describing or defining rather, what is a type A and type B. So type A people, they tend to be driven, ambitious, perfectionistic. They thrive on competition and control. Now, this is there's a spectrum. So on a continuum, some people might be more or less. We could think about that. If you're in the type B arena, you might be more or less. And the beauty in this is that we could look at it as a dial as opposed to a switch where it's like it's either on or off, a dial where we can lessen this over time, which is what I've worked on most of my adult life, truly, because I've been a highly type A person in my adult life. Type B individuals tend to be on the spectrum. Again, there's a spectrum, more relaxed, easygoing. And here's the key: they prioritize relationships over tasks. So it's not that the type A woman doesn't prioritize relationships, but she's got to get all her stuff done before she can relax, right? If you are her, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm speaking about type A women, but there are type A men. I know plenty of couples where the man is type A and the woman is type B, but I'm speaking to you, the woman who is type A, and you're married to a laid back guy. We're going to talk about the reasons that drew you to him because I have that. So a lot of type A women are drawn to type B men because they bring this like stability and calmness, and they create this balance, and it just feels so good and grounding. And so for our nervous system, so people who are type A, we have a nervous system oftentimes that's stuck in overdrive. And this is the work that I do. Nervous system regulation work, embodiment work, also work to help women get out of their masculine, which the masculine energy, which is type A energy, it's doing energy, and get more into your feminine or type B or being kind of energy rather than doing energy. And so type A women are most often drawn to type B men because they love that grounded feeling. I know for me, I've never been drawn to a type A man. I do not need someone, I don't need another me in my life for sure. That would just be too much masculine energy, too much doing energy. Like you would walk in our house and it would probably look like a museum if there were two of me here. So, so you have to really sort of think about the yin and yang and the balance. Now, I will tell you though that in relationships, almost always the thing that draws you and magnetizes you to your partner ultimately becomes the thing that gets in between you and that repels you from your partner. It becomes the Achilles heel of the couple. Not 100% of the time, but almost always. So we're going to talk about how that works. So a lot of times with type A women, they run high energy. They run in sympathetic activation a lot, fight flight energy a lot. And when we think about the notion of co-regulation, and we think about using somebody else's nervous system to ground us, a type A woman who is high strung and perfectionistic is not going to be able to use another type A high strung perfectionistic person to regulate them, because that is just going to be more of the same energy. So what you're doing is you're using the person around you who's more grounded, who's more laid back, who has a sort of a more easygoing energy. This is more what we would call a ventral vagal energy. They're in their safety zone. They're very connected. They're engaged. And so we are going to use that kind of energy. And so if we could think about how a couple where you, the woman, are type A, your partner is type B, and you're trying to plan something, whether you're trying to plan a trip or you're trying to plan a host an event at your house. So the type A partner, you, the woman, you are going to be the organized logistics, make sure everything gets done. The problem is that it's very easy to get lost in that energy and then not enjoy the thing itself, whether it's the family event you're hosting or it's the vacation you're planning. And here's really where it's so important to create space, which we're going to discuss in this episode, to create space for your partner to have a presence and have an influence. And so let's think about this. Okay, so first off, after the initial honeymoon phase wears off in all couples, there is a stage called disillusionment or disenchantment, when the realness of who the other person is comes into being. So we start to see who they really are. One of the biggest challenges for the type A woman with her type B partner is that when her husband comes into full view and she sees him for all of who he is, she's going to start to look at some of his flaws, as he's not as ambitious, he's not as detail oriented, he's not as motivated, he's not as much of a go-getter. Like, I'm a workhorse and he's not. I get things done, he doesn't. As if my traits, or the type A woman's traits, are like the strength traits, as if like that's the way to be. It's not necessarily. It's helpful in certain situations and not in others. But what happens is that you start to use your way of being and your way of doing things as the measure for success and how things should be. So it's like how you clean up the kitchen versus how he cleans up the kitchen, how you make the bed versus how he makes the bed, how you clean the bathroom versus how he cleans the bathroom. And so this becomes a big wedge in couples. And what we really have to do is be able to appreciate that what our partner brings to the table is their own unique qualities that actually balance us out, really like a yin and yang. And that you, the woman who is type A, should not be using your strategies and your approaches and your solutions as the measure for what is the right way. So many times I will hear clients say, well, I'm just showing him how to properly load the dishwasher. The bowls, you put the small bowls on the top because you put them on the bottom, then you won't be able to fit the dishes. Or how to properly clean the bathroom, like that you need to use this spray for the toilet, and make sure you're using this spray. Make sure you're also cleaning the handle where you flush, and as if your way is the way or the right way. And this becomes a real divide for couples. And what happens is that husband in this case starts to feel micromanaged, starts to feel like a child, and she starts to feel you, the woman, start to feel like you have another kid. Like, oh, I have to go behind him and fix the bed after he makes it, rather than saying, wow, I so appreciate that he even made the bed. Or I have to go behind him after he cleans the bathroom because he misses spots, rather than being like, huh, I'm so glad I have a husband who actually cleans the bathroom or cleans up the kitchen at night, and have to go behind him and say, there's the counters are still foggy. And so this is a real challenge for many, many couples, because there is truth in opposites attract. Of course, we are attracted to what we don't have in us. So it's a couple reasons why opposites attract. And this is generally an unconscious attraction. We are attracted to someone who has something we don't possess, and maybe we want to possess more of it. So we find someone who has that, not consciously, but we find someone who has that unconsciously, and also from a body-based nervous system perspective, so that we can have more of that in our life. Or we find someone who has that and we don't have it. We don't want to have it, or we know we're never going to have it, but we know we need it in our life. And the way I think about relationships is that, if I think about the Venn diagram, it's really two individuals coming together and there's an overlap. So there's your ingredients and my ingredients, and that overlap is the couple. So if we are the same person, if I'm attracted to the same person as me and we have an overlap, it's just really a clone of me. So we're missing out on a lot of other aspects of how to navigate and run our relationship in our life. And so if you have two high-strung type A people, who's going to be the grounder? Who's going to be the regulator? Neither of you. So where are you going to get that from? It's a big missing piece. So the important part of all of this is that you create space and make room for your partner to have a presence and have an influence. Now, I've worked with couples where the woman really sort of dictates how the household is going to run, and what the inside of the home is going to look like, and how the kids are going to be raised, and how the closets are organized, and what the kids are going to wear, in part because it matters to her and it doesn't really matter to him, but also because she does just by default believe that that is the way and the right way. And what I see over time after several years of living this way is that you can look at this marriage and think, wow, where is his presence? Like, what does he contribute? What is his input? Which then becomes actually an issue in the marriage, because her complaint is that he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have any input. I ask him, I'm planning this vacation. Well, what would you like to do? And he's like, I don't really care, because he's been so squeezed out of having a presence in the relationship. And so it also can be a bit of a chicken or egg. What came first? Now, part of it is that your type B husband's temperament might just be laid back, and he cares about things, but he's not going to go to the mat on these things. I can tell you, my husband's not going to go to the mat on if we sit in row 6 or row 12 on the airplane. He really couldn't care less. If I forget to organize something around the house, he doesn't care. Like, that does not bother him. But let me tell you, if he doesn't organize something around the house, historically, that's going to bother me. And so we have to create space for the entire spectrum. This end being the type A and this end being the type B, there's an entire spectrum, and we have to really create space for that. But what happens is you fall into these default patterns, and then you start to have communication breakdowns because you're trying to discuss this. So here are some of the things that we see. You're nitpicking at your husband because he's not doing it the way that you asked him to. And so you're like, well, how did you do this? You didn't do it that way. And why did you cook the chicken in that pan and not this other pan? As if there is a pan to use, right, for chicken. We see a lot of micromanagement, like, okay, can you prepare dinner? Okay, put this in next. Oh, not too much. Like, that's a little bit too much. And this makes men enraged. Okay, so then we have a dynamic where men feel parented, they feel like children, they feel emasculated. When that happens, women start to lose their physical sexual attraction for their husband, because it's not sexy to be attracted to someone who's like a child, right? That's a mother-child dynamic. So whenever I hear women say, I feel like I have another kid in the house, she's blaming him, but the reality is that she had a lot of impact in creating that dynamic, and she doesn't really see it, and she's not taking accountability for it. And so this is something that has to really be unraveled. And we have to get into, okay, so what's his temperament? What's your temperament, which is different? And how do we create space for his presence, his personality, his being, and his temperament to show up in your marriage, in your family, and in your home as much as yours? Because type A is the dominant personality and it is going to naturally dominate. I naturally dominate. And I have to be really mindful of creating space for my husband to have input because he has great input. He has a lot of really good things to say. And so type A women oftentimes struggle with even respecting their husband's mind. And so in the end, what ends up happening with this is that you start to question the relationship. You start to question your partner. Is this the right partner for me? We're so out of sync. It can feel like you don't value the same thing. Now, I can tell you the type B man does not value organization. Generally speaking, he does not value tasks. He is not a taskmaster. He does not value checking things off of a list. He does not value that the house is clean and spotless. Like, he might think like, that's great. I like that. But like, do I need that? No. Is it high value for me? No. Those are not high value things. So what we start to see then is that there's a divide between what she values versus what he values. And then if we start to if we don't really look at that for what it is, and we start to use that and create a broad stroke of the brush and start to allow that to dictate what it means about the relationship, it's like, I mean, we don't even have a shared value system anymore. What are we even doing with each other? And this is really when the woman starts to question everything about her relationship and her marriage. Now, you're probably going to be doing it very secretly at first because it's a really scary thought to be like, oh my gosh, did I marry the wrong man? Am I in the wrong relationship? I thought he was the one. When I first met him, I was drawn to all of this. I loved these parts of him. He was so calming, so grounding, so sweet, so thoughtful, so doting. He worshiped me. All the things that any woman could ever want. But now here I am, I'm questioning all of this. And so this is a very common dynamic. And so I talk a lot about relationship anxiety. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily talking about the anxious attachment, although that could be a piece of it. But for me, with this dynamic, anxious attachment is not the root cause. For me, with this dynamic, the root cause really is that she is a type A woman and you have an idea about how things need to be and how they should be. And when they're not that way, your body starts misfiring, because your nervous system is organized toward order, type A order, perfectionism. And he is not that way. And when you start to experience that, your body is going to start to misfire. You're going to end up getting stuck in fight flight. And then it's going to send messages up to your mind that your mind is then going to create meaning out of. And the meaning is like, wow, what does it say about a man who doesn't care about XYZ? What does it say about a man who doesn't think about A, B, and C? And that is really the meaning making that you are going to have going on, which is ultimately going to have you questioning your relationship. And that right there is the crux of the work that I do with women and couples. Now, of course, I see couples, all kinds of couples, but this very specific dynamic I'm talking about is also very specifically what I've created all of my programs around. My private work is for couples, my programs and women, but my programs are really around this very specific dynamic. And my program is for you, the woman. And so you have to really begin to challenge your needs, your personality, your dynamic, how it's getting in your own way, how you're holding yourself back from really receiving love, because then you start to feel very isolated, very alone, and you cannot receive the kind of love that he has to offer you. And that's unfortunate, right? You're really missing out. And so one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that what you really need is embodiment work, not talk therapy. You do not need talk therapy. Talk therapy is going to keep you up in your head. It's going to keep you analyzing and overanalyzing and looking at that thought like it's a prism from every single aspect that is possible. It is so multifaceted, and you're going to go in circles. I did this. You're going to go in circles. You really need work that's going to help you drop in your body, listen to the sensations, learn the language of your body so that it can accurately communicate to your mind, so your mind can accurately interpret it, and then you can then behave in accordance with that. And I will tell you that the bottom line about this is really about creating safety in the nervous system. And the nervous system is plastic. It is bioplastic. Just like the brain has neuroplasticity, the nervous system has bioplasticity. It is shaped from 0 to 6, and then it continuously gets shaped after that from all of your life experiences. Every life experience you've had is housed in your nervous system. But the beauty in all of this is that because it's plastic, it can be reshaped and rewired. And that is the work that I do. And right now, I have 2 programs for you. I have my 7-day program, which is a self-paced program. It's an introduction to this practice for you yourself, and you in relation to your partner, because you've got this dynamic going on, but the skills are transferable. You can use it anywhere. And I also have my deeper program, which is a 4-month group program for women. This is hands-on. I'm involved. You're with other women. You're in like-minded company, which is a beautiful thing for women like us. I'm going to put myself in that category, because we're not just doing more of that. What we're doing is we're really looking at that and having an experience of that and beginning to make shifts from a body-based perspective. So if either of those are of interest to you, you can DM me, you can email me. If you're listening on the podcast, the links are going to be in the show notes. And that is it for today.